Hello, and this is Godly Women Matters YouTube channel. My name is Roslyn, and like you have seen in the thumbnail, I would be talking about the relationship between stress and marital infidelity, even in a Christian home. Yes, it's not supposed to be heard that there is marital infidelity in a Christian home, but truth be told, marital infidelity is becoming a great concern even among Christians, even in Christian home. It's not supposed to be heard, but it is happening. So it's important that we address this issue. And I know there are lots of causes for marital infidelity, but I'll be talking about the stress part of it, how stress causes marital or leads to marital infidelity. In this discussion, I'll be able to explore how stress impacts marriage, how it can open doors to infidelity, and how Christian couples can guard their homes against these challenges. Stress, we know, is a natural response to the challenges of life. And at one point, we can't do without it. At one point or the other, we will be stressed. We will go through stress, And some of the various sources or some of the various factors that can cause stress is one, financial pressure. You are struggling to meet up with financial needs. You have unexpected expenses living from paycheck to paycheck. You want to meet up with this and that is enough to stress an individual. And then this pressure will then lead this individual to have a work-life imbalance because you want to be able to meet the needs of the family. You are working long hours. Your job is demanding. You have insufficient quality time with your spouse. You are spending most of your time at work because you want to earn more income to be able to meet the family needs. Apart from that, there's also the challenge of parenting. We know that parenting comes with its own stressors. It can be mentally, physically draining. Now I talked about financial, I talked about work-life imbalance, I talked about parenting. That is not all. Imagine such individual is also a minister, not just a pastor now, not just pastoring a church, but you know that is another work on its own. Now, a minister just working in the church, you have one responsibility or the other in the body of Christ. I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm saying all of this can overwhelm an individual, leaving them with little or no time to nurture their marriage. So it is important that there is a work life, family, ministry balance. If there is no balance and it's like just one is taking all the time and you don't have time for the other, especially your spiritual life and your marriage is being drained, your spiritual life is being drained, but you're having enough time for every other thing, the financial aspect, your work, you don't even have time for your life. You just work, work, work because you want to earn more money. You are not giving time to parenting, you're not giving time to marriage, you're not giving time to your spiritual life, you're not giving time to other things that would balance it out. You see that it begins to lead to emotional disconnection in the home because you're not spending enough time together. You don't even have that time to spend together as a couple. It leads to frustration, it leads to fatigue, and all of this can create a vulnerable environment in marriage. And this is how unmanaged stress can pave the way to marital infidelity because there will be emotional disconnections. The couples are overwhelmed by stress. They struggle to connect emotionally. This disconnection will then make one or both partners to feel neglected, to feel unloved, prompting them to seek for comfort elsewhere. Another thing that it does is that stress widens the communication gap. It leads to poor communications. The couples avoid discussing their feeling, they avoid discussing their challenges. All these unresolved issues begin to pile up. There's no time to talk about it. They're always busy. So when there's a challenge, no time to talk about it, no time to, communicate about it. They begin to pile up and pile up and pile up, unresolved issues piling up. And before you know it, they are not emotionally attracted to each other any longer. It's a lot of offenses. This other individual is piling up offenses. This other person is piling up offenses. No time to come together to talk about it. And before you know it, they begin to confide with an outsider, probably at their workplaces, somebody that would sit down and listen to them and ask, "So what's wrong with you? You look a bit sad today." And you'll be like, "Oh, I don't know. I've been having this issue with my wife, with my husband, we've not been able to have time together." And that one will be like, "Oh, really?" Especially if it is opposite partner, like opposite sex. Person, oh really? Oh, and that person will start devising means to fill in that gap. And that is how it starts. Because that emotional connection is not there. The gap in communication is so evident. Now, this individual needs to speak with someone, but the partner is not available. They are always busy. No time to talk together to trash issues. He starts looking for an outsider to fill in that gap. At that point, the devil has discovered a loophole. He has discovered a weak point, and then he will put the wrong person at that strategic place to be able to meet that need. You and your husband are not having that, or you and your spouse, you and your wife are not having that emotional connection. The devil will then send somebody, probably at the place of work. Another thing that happens is that when an individual is stressed, there's an hormone being secreted known as the cortisol. It's called the stress hormone, cortisol. And when this hormone is secreted, indirectly you start looking for something to do. And that is why majorly you will see that those unbelievers, when they are stressed, the next thing that comes to their mind is how to relieve that stress. And they start looking at, and that is why they get addicted. They start looking at, oh, let me take a puff of cigarettes, or let me drink, alcohol, so that it would elevate my mood. I don't want to feel, stress. That stress hormone, like it weakens an individual, right? So we don't want to be in that situation that we are stressed. And that's why you see unbelievers, they will always resort to alcohol, they will always resort to cigarettes, they will always resort to adultery, fornication, and whatever it is, pornography, masturbation, to be able to relieve that stress. And this is the same thing that happens because we all operate in the human body, and we all have blood flowing through us. So at that point, when that stress is not managed, the body system is indirectly just finding a way to be able to manage that stress on its own. And the devil is cunning, start bringing evil thoughts at that point, start bringing evil thoughts. You remember that your co-worker at work, you remember how caring she was to you, you remember how caring he was to you, at that point you begin to think of different things that you are not even supposed to allow to fly through your thoughts and your mind. And if you are not discerning to know that this is the plot of the enemy and to come against such thoughts, you would see that such individual, little by little, we start entertaining such thoughts, and that is how it grows into infidelity and whatever. Because it will start little, it will be like, no, it's just, oh, she's caring, she's there. Before you know it, you exchange contacts. Before you know it, you just send, hi, how are you doing? I'm just checking on you. Hope you are fine. Have you gotten home? Hope you don't have issue with your partner today. I'll be like, oh no, we are fine, no issue today. And be like, oh, I'm just checking on you because I care, this kind of thing. And before you know it, it keeps going and going and going and going like that till the handshake passes the elbow. Do you know what that means? Another thing, just like I explained earlier, is that stress can weaken our emotional and spiritual defenses, thereby making us susceptible to temptation. And if such an individual is not vigilant, stress can cloud that individual's judgment and lead to poor decisions. Stress can also reduce physical intimacy in a marriage. And as such, either or one of the partners starts feeling rejected, dissatisfied, and unloved, and not getting what he or she really wants in that marriage, especially when he or she is now getting it from an outsider. It just makes the individual lose that sense of fulfillment in that marriage and begins to seek for it elsewhere. Now the big question, why marital infidelity even in a Christian home? I would say that Christian homes are not immune to the pressures of life. Yes, despite the faith, despite the commitment to biblical principles, if they are left unchecked, stress will always come. You're a believer, you're not a believer, you will be stressed at one point or the other. And if they are left unchecked, they can lead to vulnerability in marriage. Let's talk about some of them. Number one, unrealistic expectations. Many people go into marriage based on what Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 9. KJV says, if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. Another version says, if they do not have self-control, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. So people understood this verse as, oh, if I cannot control myself against all this fornication, against, immorality, the best thing is for me to marry. At least when I marry, it will just be myself and my wife. They did not walk on the paths of self control, no discipline, no resoluteness in their hearts, like Job that says, I have made a covenant with my eye that I will not look upon a maid, look upon a woman that is not my wife, that I would not even entertain that. Job was that resolute. Many people did not work on the cause of that issue in their life. They know they have that issue, but they did not work on it. They did not work on them being disciplined, have that self control, and be contented with what they have. But they are like, oh, let me just go into marriage, and marriage would answer the question, or marriage would settle the issue of lust inside of me. Marriage does not settle the issue of lust. If you have lust before marriage, even in marriage, that lust is still there. And lust will not make you to be contented with what you have. You would always want to explore. And that is why you see the unbelievers telling you, is it just one person that I would be, testing every time? Can't I explore and do this? Talking about the Christian home, these are things that have to be dealt with. Why not sit with God, let the Holy Spirit deal with those things, uproot those roots of lust inside of you, not you going into marriage and thinking that marriage will settle those lost issues in your life. Marriage cannot do that. Another factor that I have noticed is lack of vulnerability between couples. You are not open to each other to the point of you being open about your stress, about things that stresses you, your stressors, being open about your weaknesses, being open about things that tempt you. There are some couples that they are not that open. They cannot tell their partner that, oh, this is how I feel. Whenever I'm around this person, I feel this way. Or this particular thing, I don't know. Whenever I see this, it affects me. Whenever they are not open. They don't have those kind of conversation. They don't want to be vulnerable. And this leaves a gap in marriage because they don't talk about it. So how can you help each other? The scripture says even when one is down, the other will be able to lift him up, right? A threefold cord is not easily broken. But when you are not open to each other, it allows a gap. There's usually that it creates a gap. That's the best word. It creates a gap. And then the devil finds a place to come in. And you see that that cord becomes broken. The third thing I'll talk about is spiritual neglect. When couples begin to neglect their spiritual life, they are here and there, work, family, church, ministry, every other thing that I talked about earlier in this video. And they don't have time for their own spiritual life. They don't have time for prayers. They don't have time for Bible study. Even church, they don't attend church together. They don't have time for devotions, family devotions. They are just living life as it comes. At that point, they lose the anchor that keeps their marriage grounded. Let he that thinketh he stands take heed lest he fall. And that's why we cannot take away the place of prayer and being spiritually sensitive in our marriages. Number 4, I'll talk about the societal influence, the normalization of infidelity. Media, social media, she will just say it's just like it is now a normal thing. There are times I will go through social media, you'll be seeing things like, it is normal, men are polygamous in nature. It is normal for a man to cheat, but it's not normal for a woman to cheat because God did not create a woman like that. But men are polygamous in nature. And before you know it, if you start allowing that to settle inside of you and you start, hey, it's true now, men are polygamous in nature, that kind of thing, it begins to pollute that individual's heart. And you start seeing yourself as, why can't I do it? But people are doing it. And we will do it codedly. Those kind of things. Societal influence. And lastly, which is number 5, I'll talk about overemphasis on appearance. Now, I'm not talking about dressing. I'm talking about appearance. We want to appear holy. We want to appear, on fire. Whereas there are some issues that needs to be dealt with in your life. But you don't have the time to go back to God and say, God, deal with this issue in my life. But you just want to appear to others, You're always focusing on being the perfect person, the perfect image, without addressing the underlying issue in your life. If that is you, then you need to go back to God, address those underlying issues. It can be lust, it can be pornography, it can be masturbation, whatever it is, go back to God, address those underlying issues. And that is why you would see that there are a lot of people, they would dress well in suits and coats, even ministers preaching the gospel. But if God should open your eye to see what they are doing in closed doors, you'll be like, what? But this person is on fire. but this individual is ministering, but this individual is doing this and that. Some will even going to go to the point of taking Holy Communion, because it's just about the perfect image. It's just about how people perceive them. They're on fire, they're this, they're that. They're always active in every activities in the church, every program in the church. They're always there. But the main issue that needs to be dealt with, they're not dealing with it. Such an individual will easily fall into the prey of the enemy. At this point, if you're a single brother or a single sister watching this video, you know that there are hidden issues, underlying issues that needs to be addressed in your life. Please address them before you go into marriage, because those issues or marriage will not stop those things from still raising its ugly head in marriage. So it's important you address them. And if you are married, listening to this message, and you know that those issues, those underlying hidden issues are there, can you address them with God before it escalates into something irreparable, before it escalates into something that will damage you and damage your marriage? How then do we guard against infidelity, even in stressful times? Having heard or knowing what stress can do in marriages, knowing the negative effects that stress can take, it can take a toll on marriages. What proactive steps can we take to safeguard our marriage? Number one, prioritize communication. Open and honest communication is vital. No matter how busy you are, no matter how stressed out you are, take time to communicate. Take time to talk. Be open to each other and be honest about it. Communicate about your weaknesses so that the other partner will know how to help you and strengthen you. Communicate about your strengths. Communicate about anything that is bothering you. Communicate about anything that you are going through. And that's why you are a couple. You are one. So be able to be open to each other and be honest about it. That being said, each couple should also create a safe space for the other partner to be able to openly communicate without being judged, without being criticized. Create that safe space so that the other person will be able to share his or her feelings and concern without fear of judgment. Number two, seek God together. Pray together, study the Bible together, attend, church together. There are times you should even have like couples retreats together, just yourself and your spouse. I'm not talking about couples retreats like church activities now. Just yourself and your spouse, just come together, have time together, apart from devotion, apart from, family devotion, apart from other things, have time together, just yourself and your spouse, to study, to read, to share the word of God. It strengthens your spiritual bond, even as couples. And that is why Ecclesiastes 4:12, that verse that I quoted earlier, that a threefold cord is not easily broken. When God is at the top, and then your husband and the wife, that threefold cord is not easily broken. Number three, invest in quality time. And this you have to be intentional about, because the busyness of life, if that's a correct English, you would always be busy. Work, this, that, you would always be busy. But when you are intentional to create quality time, it can be date night, it can be just a family adventure, it can just be to go out to visit a restaurant, it can be anything. Just schedule time for your family. It could be monthly, it could be weekly, for special outing. But time at home, sometimes you don't even have to go out. It can just be by yourself at home. Just have time together, cuddle, talk. Just have that time together at home. It's not every time you go out. If you have the funds, go out regularly. Going out can be monthly, it can be twice in a month, you have your schedule. But it's not every time you go out. Those times that it's just you and your husband, or your spouse, your husband and the wife, like that. And it's just that safe space is there for you people to just talk. No hurry, no rush, you're able to listen. The other partner is able to listen without interrupting, and this other partner is able to talk and say his own without this partner interrupting. And you just have that quality time to talk. It's important that couples find time. And it takes intentionality, because if you are not intentional, there are other things that will take up that time for you. Number four, address stress heads on. You have identified the source of your stress. Work together with your partner to be able to find solution. If it is for you people to be able, probably it is something financial. Oh, is there a way you can help me to ease this financial? It's a lot on me and it's stressing me out. Okay, would you be, depending, we have Each family has a way they do their things. If it is the family budget, okay, should we be doing it 50-50? Should we be doing it this way, this way? Just help me ease some of this burden. It's too much on me. Just talk things out. You have identified what the stress is and then address those stress heads on. Another thing, set boundaries. Protect your marriage by setting clear boundaries. Boundaries with the opposite sex, things that take away the time you should have with your partner. Avoid situations that could lead to temptations. Be transparent about friendship. Be transparent about interactions. Be transparent about whatever you do. Let your here be here. If you say you are there, you are here. Let your partner admit it so. If you say this is where you are going, let it be where you are going, not you say you are going there and your partner discovered you are going there. These are things that breaks trust, and before you know it, it has its own toil and effect on the marriage. Even as I'm rounding up, for Christian single sisters and brothers listening to me, pray for God's wisdom in building a godly home. Christian homes can be a beacon of love and a beacon of faithfulness. We have godly marriages that are still standing, and your own home will not be an exception. Now, talking to married people, in case marital infidelity has occurred, healing is possible by God's grace. If you need to seek counseling, please go ahead to seek counseling. Each partner try to rebuild the trust that has been broken and commit to forgiving one another. This message should be a call to action for Christian individual, Christian couples to guard their hearts and to guard their marriage, ensuring that their homes reflect the love and commitment that Christ intended for marriage. Hello, this is Godly Women Matters YouTube channel. My name is Roselyn. Now it's sounding like a debate. Hello, and this is I. Oh no. Hello, and this is Godly Women Matters YouTube channel. My name is Roselyn, and I wish us all the best in our individual marriages. If you like this video, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, comment, subscribe to this channel, and yes, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.